Now it is recording. See that?
Yes, sir.
So I've chosen that file where it has to be recorded.
Okay, sir.
Now it's recording. No issues.
Okay, sir.
Yes. Now if the guest has received, you can start. Okay.
Hello, sir. Sir, resolution, sir.
Yes, sir.
Sir, go to the attendees, sir. Go to attendees,
Yes.
and there is one option that search,
Yes.
search, sir. Just you can type it here,
Is there, sir?
Narasimha Rao.
Yes, Narasimha is there.
Okay, sir. Now you can go to more option on that name.
Wait. I will do it. It is there. I will
Then
go more
promote
option.
to panelist now, sir.
Okay. It's promoted. Just to see.
Yes.
Yes,
sir.
Yes, sir. Okay.
Sir, request him, sir, to start the session, sir.
Okay. Yes. Right. Okay. Good evening, Professor. Am I audible? Good evening, Professor.
Sir, dear Professor
Yes.
Garu, please unmute your voice, sir, please. Speaker Garu.
Hello.
Yes, sir. Good evening, Professor.
Yes, sir.
Am I audible?
You are audible, but I am unable to share my screen.
1 minute.
Okay.
Sir, Elizaran, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Yes. I will. Yes.
Give the
Please.
permission, sir. Go to that screen share option.
Yes. I can share only host.
No,
All
sir.
panelists.
All panelists. Choose
Yes,
the all
yes.
panelists.
Yes, sir. Now you can share, Professor.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, got it.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Yes. Good evening, Professor. This is Dr. C. Elarasan, Professor in the Department of Mechanical Engineering, WMO Institute of Technology. Now, I am very happy to introduce our today's speaker, Dr. V. Narasimha Rao, Professor, Department of Mechanical Engineering, KIL University, Vijayawada. He was graduated BE in Mechanical Engineering from Regional Engineering College, Warangal, and MTech and PhD from Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore, in the year 1990 and 1995, respectively in the field of thermal engineering. He has worked for 7 years during 1995 to 2002 as a research associate and a fellow, Industrial Energy Group at Tata Energy Research Institute, Bangalore. He has also worked at various engineering institutions as principal, director, and dean. He has published about 35 research articles in the peer-reviewed reputed international national journals, and also he has guided 80 scholars for PhD. Our expert has also filed 14 patents in different areas, out of which 6 has been published so far. Our expert has, he has received many scholarships, awards. Out of that, he has received a National Merit Scholarship during in the year 1880 to 85 for 6 years, and also received a special rank in Mathematics Olympiad conducted by APAMT Hyderabad at the senior level. Our expert was taken the team leader for the consultancy assignment on energy efficiency services for the Ministry of Industry, Majesty's Government of Nepal, Energy Management Component of the Power Sector Efficiency Project, and World Banks. The activities which are all taken by our experts, such as demand side management, furnace clean and boiler efficiency studies, cogeneration feasibility studies, covering 65 major industries in Nepal, and also trained in 11 Nepali engineers as certified energy auditors. Our expert was also associated with the field testing of a dozen energy devices, retrofits, and an energy saving demonstration project which is funded by ZTZ Germany. Our expert also developed and demonstrated performance contract for industrial energy management for Indian scenario, which is sponsored by Canadian Interactions Development Agency. Our experts is a member of various societies, councils, bodies like ASHRAE, ISCA, ISHMT, ISHRAE, ISTE, SESI, FIE. Our experts interested areas such as energy auditing, energy conservation and management, food pre-cooling, heat transfer, refrigeration and air conditioning, and renewable energy sources. Once again, I give warm welcome to our professor on behalf of our WAMU Institute of Technology and our participants to give a talk on this topic. I also welcome all the participants for this 1 week FDP. Thank you, Professor. Now we hand over the session to our professor.
Thank you, Dr. Elierson. Are you able to hear me?
Yes, I can hear, sir. I can hear you.
You are able to see the this PPT also?
Yep, I can able to see, sir.
Okay, I will proceed.
Yes, sir. You can make it a full screen, sir.
Yeah. Full
Yes,
screen also I will do it.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yes, it is very
now
clear,
it is
sir.
around 4:10. I will take up to 4:55, 45 minutes and leave about 5 minutes for questions and answers.
Okay, sir. Okay.
Tomorrow, since there will not be any introduction, I can take the full 1 hour.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you,
Yes.
Dr. Elierson.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
So, good afternoon to all of you if you are in India. And thanks, Dr. Elierson, for his nice introduction of me. So, while introducing me, he has just mentioned a point that I worked in Tata Energy Research Institute during 95 to 2002 as a research associate and fellow. So the present presentation, which this is a single PPT, which I can share it with you. There is no problem, no copyright or anything. So I'm going to cover in 2 days, 1 hour each, 2-hour session. Since keeping people interested for 2 hours is difficult, we decided to make it into 2 days. So mostly whatever I have learned while working in early part of my career in Tata Energy Research Institute, Bangalore, this is a condensation of that in a way. So we'll proceed. I think since Dr. Elierson has already given a brief account of my qualification, so I don't want to spend any time. I just graduated from REC and did Masters and PhD from IISc. And this is a little bit about my experience. All of you are able to hear me and see the slides properly?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Right. So nice. So I can proceed.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So I have kept some 5 indents. The middle one is the one which I just mentioned, where I was fortunate enough to work in such a nice Indian MNC for 7 years. And the hands-on experience, what I gained during those 7 years, I'm trying to explain to you in about 2 hours time. For the past 4 years approximately, I've been working as a professor of mechanical engineering at KLU University. So this is my favorite quotation, particularly for my young friends, particularly the students. I just want to explain it taking a few seconds time. Normally we have a tendency, when the task is small, we do it immediately. For instance, you have some 4 or 5 works. One takes 10 minutes, another takes 2 minutes, another takes 2 hours, another takes a day. And some tasks may take maybe years. If, for example, if somebody joins a PhD program full-time in one of the institutes like IISc or IITs or some central research labs, the normal time you need is about 5 years. So whereas there will be a small thing, you want to hit a nail to the wall or, just to do a small work, it takes only 10 minutes. So our tendency is most of us, we try to complete the small work quickly to get the satisfaction that, okay, we have finished one work. Like that. So that is fine. It's perfectly acceptable. I also do the same way. But what I want to say is when you have a large task or a fairly big task, don't be frightened or don't get panic. in the biggest of the work, see 5-year research work, which 5 years is almost how many days? 1800 days. Even if it's 1800 days, you start from day one and do a little bit of work and keep on doing. And after 1800 days, your work is going to be completed as simple as that. Yeah, this is something which this is more a sort of an introduction. So I take a little time, particularly I just, I mean, ideally I would like to interact, I would like to personally, deliver this, but due to the COVID-19, we don't have a choice other than doing this kind of webinar, but some kind of interview. Of course, we do have the opportunity to allowing people to put questions in video, and you can use the chat room. But only problem is we don't have so much of time. So what I prefer is I cover this quite a big topic. Believe me, 7 years of my hands-on work in an Indian MNC, I'm trying to share with you into those time, or probably 1 or 45 minutes effective time. So it's a very, very challenging task and a tough task, but I make a sincere attempt. So fine, we can always put the questions in the, leave the questions with the organizers by a mail or anything, something, and I will share my phone numbers, WhatsApp number, and email ID, and I can always answer the questions during these 2 days presentations, or maybe later also. There is no problem. Okay, but give me a little time, I can always answer your questions. And I have a feeling most of you are under the age of 50. So I'm 54 years, but I have a feeling, the majority of the people are of much lower age. So that's the reason why I think some of the things I need to explain. When the first oil shock came, the whole country, whole world shook. See, in fact, 1973 was the first oil shock. 1979 was the second oil. See, what is this oil shock? It is very simple. This is the oil exporting countries. You know very well, India is producing only 20% of its crude oil and natural gas requirements from within the country, like Bombay, Assam, Dipur, and things like that. But more than 80% of our Indian crude oil requirements we import from various countries. Earlier we were importing from Iran. Soviet Union used to import to us. Like that, we purchase from so many countries. That is one of the reasons why that puts a lot of burden on the rupee dollar exchange, because we have to pay in dollars to purchase the crude oil. 1 barrel of crude oil is about 160 liters in quantity, and India buys, I think, nearly 2 million. It's not, it's a little more than 2. I think about $5 million barrels or something. I have the figures also. So much crude oil, which is again, goes to the petroleum refineries, which are placed in so many places, including the Reliance refinery, which we have visited in Gujarat, and even government refineries are also there. From crude oil, we know the products like petrol, diesel, kerosene, paraffin wax, then aviation fuel, which is used for jet engines of the aeroplanes, and all these things come. So what I want to say here is, there was one OPEC, that is nothing but Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries. See, when you are doing all the same business, see textile mills, for example, Bombay, there are so many hundreds of mills. So they form an association so that, they will protect the interest of themselves. Like that, in 1916, 12 Arab countries, mainly Saudi Arabia, they dig out nearly 5 million barrels of crude oil from the earth every day. Similarly, Kuwait produces so much of thing. See, Iraq invaded Kuwait several years ago in 1991. That is the main interest is oil. Then the US came, to fight for Kuwait and liberated Kuwait from Iraq. Again, their interest is oil. Please try to understand in future, particularly the younger generation, you are going to see, now we are seeing wars for, I do not know what it is, but we will have wars for, we are already having wars for oil, supremacy of oil, because oil is very, very important. in future there is I have a strong feeling, I do not know whether I live long enough to see that, there will be wars between the countries for water, which is going to become a scarce commodity very, very soon. So the Saudi Arabia, Oman, then Kuwait, Iran, Iraq, Nigeria, all these countries, say 12 Arab countries in the Gulf, Malaysia also, Syria and Egypt, totally 14 countries, they started one organization in 1960. Their idea is to control the oil prices. So from 1916 to 1973, they have not done much. Suddenly in 1973, they increased the price of one barrel of crude oil from $3 to $5.11. See, if you see the change, it's almost 70% increase one shot. It's like, today you are paying 100 rupees, tomorrow you have to pay 170 rupees for the same item. Then in 1974, that is within 1 year, they doubled it. In other words, within 2 years, within 1.5 years or something, crude oil rate increased from $3 per barrel to $12 per barrel. That is 4 times. These are the two shocks. So suddenly up to in 1979, in fact, 1979, I was quite, I don't say I have grown very, very old, but I was 14 years old. I think I was in studying 10th class. I observed that, the crude oil price increased from $12 to $40. So suddenly, because any country, India, for example, if you consider the budget, they will allocate, okay, this year, this much of crude oil we are going to import. Something like that, they will make a calculation and they will take an average price and fix it that, okay, this much budget we keep. Suddenly, if the that fellow increases the cost, our entire calculation will go, we don't know what to do. This is what happened. And this is the reason why, if you see the last bullet, the entire world started looking at, something is to be done. If the oil prices are controlled by OPEC and some of the few nations which have oil, and we depend on them, see, suddenly tomorrow, if there is no petrol, I think all the countries are going to stop. But please try to understand, these crude oil reserves are going to last for about 2060. So all the present younger generation, I think some of the students, I think you are all 20 years old. So after in 2060, you will be 60 years or probably 65 years. And you are going to see a day when there will not be any crude oil. But don't be panic. There is every possibility that now they are finding more and more crude oil sources under there. Recently, they found one in Iraq, which is going to yield so much of crude oil. Basically, the idea of what I want to say is, every country realized the importance of energy efficiency in view of the oil shocks of 73 and 79. Before that, nobody bothered about energy. A lot of countries, there was no sufficient energy. Then people started looking at, let us do something, maybe solar, maybe whatever it is. Now, coming to India, see what I explained a few minutes back is how the world reacted to the oil shocks of 73 and 79. Now in India, I think 1991, I was 26 years old. I was doing my PhD in IISc, and I was very closely following, that was the year when Rajiv Gandhi was assassinated, and P.V. Narasimha Rao, late Sri P.V. Narasimha Rao, became the Prime Minister of the country in a rather unexpected way. In fact, he has packed up all his luggage. His luggage is mostly books from Delhi. He wants to move to his eldest son's house in Hyderabad just to retire from politics, and because he's a poet, he studies, he reads so much, he writes books. So he wants to enjoy life, in his last part of the life. That was the time, because of the, Rajiv Gandhi's assassination, P.V. Narasimha Rao became the Prime Minister of the country in a most unexpected way. And just before that, our position was between 1985 to 90, when so many prime ministers changed, Vishwanath Pratap Singh and Chandrasekhar and things like that. The foreign exchange reserves, which in the sense that is the money we have, the number of dollars we have for making any international purchase, it came to something like 1 billion. Please remember, I think billion we are not so familiar. 1 billion is 100 crores. So our Indian population, if you say it is 130 crores, you can also say 1.3 billion. So we were managing the show at that time. Of course, the this much of currency was not there. We were managing the show with 40 days of reserves. In the sense, in 40 days, we export so many items to so many countries. I can tell you a few things. Jewelry, particularly Surat in Gujarat and other places, they do so many types of jewelry and sell to various countries. Similarly, shoe uppers and leather products we export to so many countries. Textiles we export to so many countries. Tea we export to Russia and so many other countries. Gulf also, Tata tea and all. Similarly, coffee also we export. And like that, we export so many items to so many countries. And for example, sugar, India is the biggest producer of sugar, but unfortunately, because of our high population, we don't export any sugar. All the sugar we only eat ourselves. So by selling so many items to so many countries, we earn foreign exchange. In that foreign exchange, majority of the foreign exchange we use to buy the crude oil because it is most important. Now, if you see, I checked last night before finalizing this presentation. As on May 8th, that is 21 days back, figures are available in the internet. Our foreign exchange reserves are 485 billion American dollars. It was just $1 billion in 1991 when Mr. Narasimha Rao took over as the Prime Minister of the country. And then there was some balance of payments in the sense, whatever loans we borrow from other countries, World Bank, Asian Development Bank, and things like that, we have to pay the interest. And interest rate is very less, but still we have to pay regularly. Suddenly there were no dollars available when Mr. Chandrasekhar was the Prime Minister. That is before the assassination of Rajiv Gandhi. Then there was no money. So what they did is they took so much of gold. They took it in a cargo plane, airlifted to Bank of England and pledged it, purchased dollars and made the interest payments. Things were so bad. I tell you, in my life, I was born in 1965. I have been observing the Indian political system since 1977. I think when I was at the age of 12 and today I'm 54. So last 42 years I was observing. As far as economy is concerned, that 1991 was the worst period. We were at the deepest, bottommost point in our life. That was the time P.V. Narasimha Rao realized that something is to be done to this country. I think some of you may be wondering why Sir is explaining so many things. It's very, very relevant. In another 5 minutes, you are going to appreciate what I am saying now, which will lead to the actual topic. Then the previous Prime Minister, Dr. Manmohan Singh, he is basically an economist. He is a doctorate in economics from London College of Economics and working as governor of Reserve Bank governor. Then P.V. Narasimha Rao saw that here is the correct person to set the country right as far as the economy is concerned. He is not a politician. He never won an election in his life. Even when he became the Prime Minister, he was made the Rajya Sabha member by the UPA chairperson, Mrs. Gandhi, Sonia Gandhi, and he never contested any election. And Dr. Manmohan Singh became the finance minister of the country. So when he took over, as I told you, when Prime Minister P.V. Narasimha Rao took over the position of the Prime Minister of India, Indian economy was in shambles. I will give a comparison. I don't know how many of you are following other politics on the our neighboring countries. Prime Minister Imran Khan, who was a former cricketer, I have seen a live telecast of some of the matches he was playing with Kapil Dev, Gavaskar, and people before. In fact, he played along with Tendulkar. So when he became the Prime Minister about 1 year, 1.5 years back, the entire Pakistani economy is in shambles. They don't have any money because the country is totally bankrupt. And I mean, I don't want to deviate and waste too much time, but they are really struggling to how to run the country because there is no money available. Almost a similar situation was there in India at that time. Now the problem is the energy intensity. What we call it is to produce a particular commodity, how much energy is required. So I'll give a simple example. Cement. A cement industry, cement requires you have thermal energy in the form of coal. Cement industry also consumes electricity. In the sense, to produce 1 ton of cement, there are some international norms. there are some industry norms like, to produce one ton of cement, you should consume this much of coal, which means this much of calorific value of coal in kilocalories or kilojoules in SI units, and so many units of energy. So at the time, before 91, after the independence, India was producing something, but the problem is we never bothered for energy. We never bothered for energy efficiency. In the sense, we were very inefficient. But then you will ask a question, if we are inefficient, how we were surviving? And just for information, in India, the industry consumes half of the total energy available in the country. That is the consumption of our country. Now see the third bullet point, it's again important. Last night I checked it again. In 1990, because we are talking about 1991, diesel was costing 5 rupees per liter. Today it is costing 70 rupees per liter approximately. So it increased by 14 times in 30 years. Just to give a comparison, petrol was costing 8 rupees in 1990. Today, you know very well, it is costing about 80 rupees, which means petrol price increased by 10 times in 30 years. Now, actually petrol and diesel, the pricing pattern is different. That is another presentation, another seminar I have to give you maybe after some time. Both are products of crude oil. So essentially these things refer to the crude oil. Next aspect is interest rates were very, very high in those days in 90s. In fact, I have purchased a small flat in Bangalore in 1995. At the time, the interest rate was 15.75%. I don't know how many of you are familiar. That is equivalent to something like 1 rupee 35 paisa interest per 100 rupees. Today, banks are willing to give you money for interest for something like 8%, 8.5%, particularly housing loans. See, almost interest rates have become half. Yeah. Now, are you able to hear me?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Shall I continue?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
There was some noise somewhere, so I thought I will just ask you for a second. Now, I just in another 2-3 minutes, I will quickly move to the, because
Yes,
particularly, yes.
Mute your voice, sir. Mute your voice. Very loud.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes.
Any problem?
No, sir. Please carry on, sir.
I will continue.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, some of the things, particularly for the younger generation, our students, we may not be knowing. So I want, please don't think that, I belong to a particular party. I am fond of Manmohan Singh or whatever it is. Nothing like that. Dr. Manmohan Singh worked as a finance minister of the country when P.V. Narasimha Rao was the prime minister for 5 years. He worked as prime minister for 10 years. Totally 15 years he was in politics. Today he is a Rajya Sabha member and he lives in Delhi. Recently, he was not well. I think he underwent a surgery or something. He was in a hospital for a few days. But the idea is his 5 years of finance minister work is so great. Today, whatever benefits our generation and your generation, your future generations, so many good things have happened. We all should be thankful to Manmohan Singh when he was the finance minister. In fact, he has not contributed so great as prime minister. Please take understand. So first thing he has done is he unshackled the country from the bureaucratic controls. See, but again, you may ask the question, who did this? Why things were bad? Things were bad in 81, but who did? The first president of Prime Minister Pandit Nehru. But the problem is at that time, the requirements were different. 1947, when we got the independence from the British, our requirements were different. That is the way Nehru has started building the nation. And by the time we came 1999, in between, as I told you, the oil shocks, the requirements were different and there's no need to do it. That responsibility is taken by Dr. Manmohan Singh. Now, he took the economy to a high growth path of 6 to 7% during his 5-year period. Then he devalued the rupee 2 times. In the sense, what it means is, I think for the benefit of my younger friends, for example, today $1 is 76 rupees, I think yesterday 71 rupees. So suddenly, instead of somebody doing say that, our rupee is 80 rupees, something like that, we will devalue our rupee, which means dollar value will become more. It's actually a purely economic subject, but youngsters, I also want to, as an elder, I want to give you an advice, which was given to me by boss in Tata Energy Research Institute. Economics is a very good subject, and my advice for all mechanical engineering students and faculty is, if you get an opportunity in terms of time, mainly time is a more important thing. You study economics, it is going to be very, very useful. Now there are so many socialist policies he removed, and by 1994, when he presented his historic third budget, 1 crore new jobs came, and he liberalized the economy. And just to complete, if you see, there are about three bullet points. Please see the third bullet point. In 1991, the average tariff is nothing but import duty. In other words, how this was happening, I just explain briefly in 1 minute. See, today you are producing 1 meter of cloth for 100 rupees. India, a typical company in India, producing one meter of cloth for 100 rupees, let us say. Somebody in China or Indonesia or something, same quality, everything is perfect, they are able to produce it for 50 rupees. So if you leave the market open, the 50 rupee fellow will use some 5 or 10 rupees transport, and he will sell here for about 70 rupees. So all the Indians will buy, when everything is same, people will buy the 70 rupee. Who will buy 100 rupee product? Nobody will buy. That's why before Manmohan Singh, things started with Prime Minister Pandit Nehru. What they have done is, they put a large import duty on various items. It was something like, the average value was 125%. In the sense, an item produced in some other country for 100 rupees, they have to pay 125 rupees to the government of India in terms of import duty or customs tax, and it arrives in India. So it becomes 225. Add another 10 rupees or 15 rupees or 20 rupees for transport and other, it becomes 250. So our 100 rupee can compete with 250, but not with 50 rupees. This was the big problem. So he brought down that, and then finally he said to the Indian industry, either you improve your energy efficiency or you shut down. So some companies have shut down. I don't have the exact number, but probably about 20 to 25% of the companies, they were unable to cope up with the competition, they just closed. But the remaining 75% or 80% companies, they perish. This is the seed of energy.
Professor?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sorry for the disturbance, Professor.
No problem.
This is Elderson. Actually, from your side, sometimes voice is disturbed, sir. That's what audience also.
I think that is maybe the fan. I will just
some fan, some air, yes, air disturbance. Yes, air disturbance.
I will just reduce the speed.
Yes,
please
sir,
tell
yes.
me after 2 minutes.
Okay.
How is it now?
Now clear. Now it is clear.
You could have told me even early.
Yes.
Right. So this is the seed of energy efficiency. So the title of the topic now, I will link it to what I'm going to tell is energy conservation and management in industry and commercial buildings. Now the question is, efficiency itself, energy efficiency itself is, the question is why? At this point of time, I'll give a small example. When we were children, when we switch on the light in one room and come out, say, and don't go there for the next few minutes, my father used to tell, when you don't require, please put it off. See, some people get offended, particularly ladies in the house. If you ask them to switch off the light and fan in a particular room, if it is when you are not using, they get offended. Elierson, is it okay?
Somewhat okay, sir. Now you are talking. That is clear. Few seconds before you spoke to me, that is not clear. That's not clear.
Now it is okay.
Now it is okay, sir. Now
Excellent.
it is
excellent. You could have told me even earlier.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
No, so here the question is, as a responsible citizen, I am paying my electricity bill. So why do I bother? I spend more electricity, I pay it. So why do I worry? Please try and understand, my dear friends, particularly younger friends. Don't think that you are paying. I'm not questioning that you are a good person, you are paying the bills, and you are sincere. But if you use appropriately, or if you use in a prudent way, somebody somewhere will get the power. He will not be deprived of power. This is something which I wanted to give a little thought. Yeah. Purposely, I have spent little more time, on the what exactly happened in that 73, 74, 79, 91, and so on. So basically, the idea was when the independence came to India, at the time, the Pandit Nehru's responsibilities were to build up the country, which was under the British rule for 200 years. He is the person who started these multinational projects, multi purpose projects like Nagarjuna Sagar, Bhakra Nangal, all these irrigation projects started at the time. Then this IITs came into existence. I think 1950, first IIT Kharagpur started. Some top institutes, very well, how much IITs have contributed for the scientific development and branding of India. Then textile industry, which is very, very strong in Maharashtra and Gujarat. And of course, in Coimbatore. Coimbatore is called Manchester of the South. Manchester is in England, which has several textile mills. All this industrial revolution is based around textile industry. So many good things have happened, and that way. Once upon a time, I do not know, the younger friends were surprised. $1 was less. $1 was 1 rupee. You will really sir. $1 was 1 rupee.
Oh, sir.
At the time of independence.
Sir, excuse me.
Yeah.
Again, we are getting some noise along with your voice. Some noise. Your voice is, you can able to hear your voice, Professor. But some noise also comes.
I'll just close the doors also.
Yes,
just
sir.
Give me a few seconds.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Sorry for the disturbance.
Yeah. I'll just continue. You please tell me whether it is okay or not.
Okay, sir. Okay, Professor. Okay.
Right. So this is the in Indian industry. If you see in that 91 period, we were producing something, but we were not producing so efficiently. That is the catch here. See, next slide. I think I'm going to explain to you. To produce any product, you need through three things. One is raw material, another is power and fuel, another is labor or manpower. Okay, I'll just explain to you with the next one. Yeah, please try to understand. I will just, it takes 1 or 2 minutes. I will explain this to you. This data is prepared in 1995 by ICICI Bank for a different purpose. We have taken, yeah, just please give me a few seconds. Anup, ఏది నేను ఆల్రెడీ కొంచెం బ్రేక్ ఫోన్ చేసుకొని లాగించేస్తున్నా. రామకృష్ణ గారితో చెప్పి కొంచెం ముందుకు వచ్చేసి లాగించేస్తున్నా. కొంచెం మనకి ఫ్లెక్సిబిలిటీ ఉందండి ఇప్పుడు కూడా. అలాగే వాట్సాప్ అలాగే. Yeah, I will explain this to you. This is a very, very interesting slide. This will explain why energy efficiency is important, or why you have to conserve energy. I have already given you one aspect. The third aspect, which is out of the scope of today's presentation, is pollution. If you consume less power, you are contributing less pollution. So let us not go that side. we'll concentrate on today's topic. Now, I will just explain you, say, let us say, take one line, go to the third row. Third row is composite mills. Composite mills means, see, it is basically again related to textile mills. In a textile mill, basically first part is spinning mill. Second part is weaving and other things. In spinning mill, the cotton is made, from cotton, you make yarn. Dr. Elierson, is it okay now?
It's clear, sir. It is clear, sir.
Excellent, excellent. Now
Yes,
I understand. Thank you, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
So the first row says what type of industry the study took place. So you could say hotel. Hotel comes under, as you know, hospitality. And in hotel, what you will see is mostly refrigeration and air conditioning is the major energy consumption. Lighting is another major consumption in hotels. Then man-made fibers means basically synthetic rayon, you know, this Vimal shootings and all such kind of thing. Third one is composite mill. Cotton is the raw material. From cotton, with the process of spinning, yarn is made. That yarn is, you know, again wound into spools and reels, and from yarn, cloth is made. So finally, the starting product is cotton, and the end product is cloth. That whole thing, if you are doing it, is composite mill. So in composite mills, that brackets, whatever I have put it in the parentheses, that number indicates the number of plants which are taken as the sample. So the study was conducted in 25 composite textile mills, and they found that for a unit cost, 69% of the cost, say for example, if you are buying a cloth for 100 rupees, 69 rupees, 100 rupees is the, you know, cost price. Of course, that they will add some profit and taxes and all. This is just production cost. If you are producing 100 rupees, 1 meter, 100 rupees cost, the raw material used for that cloth is your yarn, which again comes from either synthetic rayon, synthetic yarn, or sometimes, you know, cottons also. 69% of the cost is, I will say, raw material. 16% is power and fuel, because textile mills, you need some humidifiers, electricity, and then all the water also is required. Salaries and wages are 15%. If you go to the next one, paper industry, 19 paper industries data was collected and analyzed. And in paper industry is a good example of a cogeneration, which is similar to what they do it in the sugar industry. As you know, in sugar industry, your sugar cane is crushed, and sugar cane juice is extracted. What remains is called bagasse. That bagasse is, you know, made dry in open space and use it as a fuel for boiler. And boiler produced high pressure steam. And using that steam, they will generate power. That power and then low pressure steam they use in the plant. Just to give an idea how the sugar industry works. One sugar industry where I have done the audit, I have done about 100 energy audits across India and Nepal over a period of 7 years. So for a sugar industry with the requirement of 40 megawatt power to produce a certain quantity of sugar, please remember sugar mills work only for 6 months, because sugar cane is available only for that period. Remaining 6 months, there will not be any industry operation. They will do maintenance, and remaining people will get only 50% of the salary. 1 megawatt, they take power from the grid. Then the remaining 39 megawatt, they produce themselves. Such a process is called cogeneration. Your pulp and paper, then sugar industry, these things run on cogeneration process. So in a paper industry, if you see where the data is available for an average of 19 paper companies, 54% of the cost is of raw material, 33% is power and fuel, and wages is, salaries is only 13%. So from this table, if you see overall petrochemicals, if you see raw material cost is very high. In the sense, raw material cost is nearly 50 to 70%, and power fuel cost is 20 to 30%. Salary cost is about 5 to 15%. In the sense, now the question is, you are having the industry, you are producing something, and you want more profit, or at least you don't want your profit to come down from this year to next year. Raw materials are, do you have raw material with you? Definitely not. You have to buy raw material from somewhere. So that person has to sell the raw material, and he won't reduce the price. At least you will be happy if it doesn't increase. Then salaries and wages, you are having so many 100 people or 1,000 people working. So at the end of 1 year, they will say, sir, please give us increment. Please give us DA because all the prices have increased. So you do not have much control on the cost of raw material. You do not have salaries, much control on salaries and wages. What you have is you can have less people and more efficient people. But efficient people will ask for more money, you know very well. So the only control you are having is power and fuel. So if you can improve the efficiency in terms of energy of a particular company, that is directly going to add to your profits. This is the point which I want to drive. So in fact, it is possible to explain to you from this slide onwards, but then it doesn't make much sense, particularly for my younger friends. That is the reason why I have started with energy efficiency. Then I have explained what is the oil shock, why everybody has to take energy efficiency seriously. In fact, after this and tomorrow's presentation, I want every one of you to become at least conscious about the energy consumption and to do something. But they may not work in the field of energy. That is the purpose of this particular presentation. Now, just briefly to give an idea, United States from 1973 to 1995, a period of 22 years, they have expanded their economy by 50% without increasing the energy. In the sense, how they are able to do. So for example, today some technology is there. There is a better technology which is more expensive. You have to buy new equipment, but then that will cost much less. It is easy to, the running cost is very high. So running cost is very low. So you can say that, fine, I'm not going to add any new power plant, but then I want to expand my economy. The only option available is energy efficiency. Japan also same example. Just to give an idea, you will surprise, India started energy conservation approach, or government of India, central government started this energy conservation activity in I think 1984 or something like that, seriously. And Pakistan started 2 years before India, that way. Okay, at that time I think Pakistan was doing slightly better, but now today they are in a very, very bad position. Don't surprise, after another 2 or 3 years they may request India that they want to join our country, because now they are unable to run their country properly. Yeah. Now, this is another thing, particularly for the younger friends. The present available crude oil and natural gas are expected to last for another 18 to 26 years, respectively. This is from 2015 data. So 18 years if you are 2033. So by 2033, there will not be any more crude oil available under the Earth's crust within Indian territory. Similarly, if we are 26 years to 2015, by 2041, there will not be any natural gas. So today, whatever we are getting itself is taking care of around maximum 20% of our requirement. Another 80% we are purchasing from so many other countries. And that is the reason why our dollar rupee parity, as I told you today, dollar is 71 rupees, which was the $1 was 1 rupee at the time of independence. All because we depend on this, we have to borrow, we have to import so much of crude oil. That is one of the reasons, I don't say only reason. That way, just to complete the energy availability in India, we have good amount of coal. That much I can tell you. Today, the proven coal reserves, including our Singareni collieries, Neyveli lignite, and so many, Raniganj, Bihar and Jharkhand. We have nearly 84 billion tons of known coal. Still, people are trying to find whether something else is available. Probably in future, they may find some more coal somewhere in the country. It is expected to last for another 200 years. But one little problem with coal is our Indian coal is not of a very good quality. It has high ash content. That is the reason why, just to give an idea, a lot of Indian companies, they don't buy Indian coal. They buy coal from Australia, and the cost of the Australian coal is similar to cost of the Indian coal, but Australian coal has high calorific value and low ash content. That ash content, the problem is, again, you have to have ash handling system is one of the requirements of your thermal power plant. So again, let me not deviate too much. So the middle bullet, I will just read it for you. Among various strategies to be developed for meeting energy demand, efficient use of energy and its conservation emerges out to be the best option apart from being environmentally benign. I will read it again. Efficient use of energy and its conservation emerges out to be the best option apart from being environmentally benign. So that's why we are here. Now, if you see energy demand and supply, on the energy demand and supply side, India is facing severe shortages. Over 80% of the total petroleum product demand is being met by imports, imposing a heavy burden on foreign exchange. That's what I'm saying. Today, $1 is 71.5 rupees. It is yesterday's price. And the country is also facing peak power and average energy shortages of 12 and 7%. You may, particularly students from AP and Telangana, you may say that, sir, why there is a shortage? We have power. So please try to understand, in AP also and Telangana also, villages, there is still power cut. Couple of hours power will not be there. Similarly, that way AP and Telangana, after the state is divided into two states, both the states have done extremely well in power sector. And today the power cuts have become very, very less, but still it is there. This 12% and 7% shortage of peak and average powers, these are all India level. So please don't think that, I have not analyzed it properly. It is all India level. Very recent figures I have collected. Now that takes me to, now the question is, okay, energy has to be conserved. So I will try to close in 2 minutes for today, and then open it for a question answer session for a few minutes. See, the financial, but just like a financial budget, what the finance minister proposes every year, and again the state finance minister proposes for the same state. The idea is where the rupee comes from, where the rupee has to go. Just like that, when we do energy audit of an industry, as I told you, I have done nearly 100 energy audits and 100 preliminary audits for various types of industries in India. I was fortunate enough to travel to Germany, where I visited 20 different industries. That is, for every sector, I visited one industry and spent one full day. One paper industry, one brewery, and one distillery, then milk dairy, rayon, cement, steel, forging, foundry, like that in all the industries. And we shared with the German engineers how India is doing and how Germany is doing. I had been to Austria also, Vienna, which is in fact, Vienna happens to be the headquarters of OPEC, what I told you, Organization of Oil, Petroleum Exporting Countries. Now, coming to the energy audit, which is the major subject of our topic today and tomorrow. Tomorrow, I'm going to explain what exactly is energy audit. The basic question is, say, for example, somebody is earning a salary of 50,000 rupees. So at the end of the month, some people struggle. Some people will have a little money at the end of the year. End of the month. It depends, more than the money, it depends on the style of expenditure. So he will have his own budget. Okay, 3,000 rupees provisions, maybe, some 3,000 rupees for school fees, so another 2,000 for petrol, conveyance, miscellaneous, medical expenses. Like that, we do a budget. Just like that in an industry, how many energy, how many types of energy is purchased, say coal, diesel, petrol, crude oil, things like that. And then how many machinery are there, how much electricity we are paying every month, and then how it is being spent. So an industry may have, there are, so I will just distinguish between a process industry and a batch industry. Process industry means, just like I told you, sugar industry, once the process industry starts, it runs continuously for a maximum of 340 days. See, thermal power plant, thermal power station, if you see, they start the power plant and it runs for almost 340 days at a stretch, if there is no problem in between. So they will stop it after 340 days and take it for maintenance for 25 days. At that time, they will, the other units will be running. So like that, when you see, there will be so many equipment. So first you have to study, and for that the most important thing is we have to measure the parameters. What is the input power? What is the power factor. And one more thing, remember, if you are in the field of energy, electrical engineers have to learn little bit of mechanical engineering, and mechanical engineers have to learn little bit of electrical engineering. That way, I learned little bit of electrical engineering also. And what is energy audit? Energy audit is nothing but it is an in-depth study of all major energy consuming equipment. I will give a simple example. I was telling you something else. So that is called a process industry. Similarly, cement industry, paper industry, they run for nearly 340 days if possible. If at all there is a breakdown, they will stop. Whereas an engineering industry, automobile industry, car manufacturing, component manufacturing, you go at 8 o'clock, start the work up to evening 6. If there is no requirement, you will stop and go. Stop everything except some 2 or 3 lights for security. Next day morning you start. Such industries are called engineering industries or batch industries. Cement, fertilizer, chemical, chloralkali, paper, sugar, all these are called process industries. Once that starts, it goes continuously. So you will have so many equipment. A boiler will have a ID fan, FD fan, pumps, water treatment plant, and then the flue gas analysis. Like that you have to study. So here what we do is we study the industry, go to the field, carry our instruments with us, and then study, find out some opportunities. We were also given training by our own company and outside agencies, and finally do a calculation, give sessions to the industry at the end of the study, and of course after the report preparation, look, you do this, and what are those things I'm going to explain to you tomorrow. That is how I divided the talk. Okay, if you do for doing this, you need this much of money, and every year, you are going to save this much. So your money will come back within, let us say, 1 year, 1.5 years, 2 years. After that period, the whole money will be yours. All the profit will be yours. This is how the strategy for energy audit. And the last slide for today, I will close it in 1 minute. Instruments are very, very important. And just to give an idea, you need to spend about 50 lakh rupees to get one set of instruments. Please try to understand, all the industries will not have all the items, but as an auditor, energy auditor, you should have all the instruments to measure, temperatures, pressures, water flows, electrical parameters, air velocity, refrigeration, humidity. Like that, you need some, and then water flow rate. See, if water is flowing through a pipe, without breaking the pipe, you want to find out the flow rate of the water, for which there is a electronic ultrasound flow meter, which costs about 8 lakhs. So like that, roughly for one set of instruments, you need to spend something like 50 lakhs. The company where I worked with, they invested more than 1 crore. They were having 2 sets of instruments. At any point of time, 2 teams can go to different places and do the audit. And instruments are the key to the quality of the audit. Yeah, I think this is where I will stop it here. It's almost exactly 5 o'clock, and I'll be happy to answer 1 or 2 questions, or whatever the organizers decide. I will follow that. Thank you very much for all your this thing. Please come. Tomorrow's session will be much more interesting than today's, because the actual core today, this is I have given you introduction. I have given you the context. I have explained to you why you have to study this subject at all. So from here onwards, it's going to be the actual hands-on experience. Whatever I did with my hands, with my own hands, and sometimes my friends' hands, I'm going to explain in one hour what I did in 7 years. So tomorrow, anyway, there will not be any introduction or anything. I will spend nearly 50 to 55 minutes tomorrow to explain how the energy is conserved for various equipment. Thank you for all your patience. Elierson, you can take over from here.
Thank you, Professor. Thank you, Professor. I think if any participant wants to ask any questions, they can send mail us. That same thing I can forward to you. Thereby they can get answer. Am I correct, Professor?
Yeah, that is better.
Yes. Okay.
Tomorrow morning, 1 hour before the session, whatever mails come, I will read let the participant give his name and the question, so that I will answer those questions. No problem.
Okay, Professor. Thank you, Professor. Now I will conclude with the vote of thanks. Really, I thank you, Professor, on behalf of our WAM Institute of Technology and our participants. The consent you have given to us to present about energy, importance of the energy conservation, and as well as the importance of energy efficiency, which is mostly required nowadays. Thank you very much, Professor. We are very eager to see you for the next session on tomorrow. Thank you very much.
So tomorrow it's going to be at 12 o'clock? 11
to 12, no, sir. 11 o'clock to 12 o'clock.
I think 11 to 12.
11 to 12. Okay, Professor. Okay.
So I will be on air by exactly at 10:55.
Yes, Professor. We'll be ready, Professor.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Yes.
Ellerson, sir. Sir.
Yes, tell me, sir.
Sir.
Inform that the next session will be from 7 to 8 p.m., sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Dear participants, as it is already scheduled, the next session today will be held during 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. I request all the participants to rejoin for the evening sessions. Thank you all.
Rao Garu?
Yes.
సార్ నవీన్ మాట్లాడుతున్నాను సార్.
నవీన్ ఎలా ఉన్నారు?
సార్ బాగున్నారు సార్.
ఓకేనండి, వాళ్ళంతా ఇంట్రడ్యూస్ చేశాను టాపిక్ ని.
Yes sir, I have attended your entire session, sir.
Yeah. So tomorrow I will just take them through a long journey.
Sir, excellent. I too join my colleague Dr. Elizarhan to appreciate you to bringing out the entire energy statistics, how the India faced a lot of struggle in the energy sector, sir. Really, we are hoping the energy audit techniques in your next session that we will publish tomorrow.
Surely, Naveen. Sure. So nice of you.
Sir.
So I am leaving the meeting.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much.
Right. Welcome.
Okay. Magesh, shall you close, sir?
Yes, sir. Please, sir. Please.
Thank
Shall I
you.
discuss now, sir?
Yes, sir. Please go ahead.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.